All right. Welcome, everyone, to Summit Metals podcast. We're back here with myself, Jose.
And I'm Eric.
And we're excited to really give you an overview of what's been happening here at Summit Metals this past quarter, as well as give a market update, as well as talk about gold versus silver. What should I buy first if I have a couple bucks in my bank? Yeah. So let's, first, we want to give a good thank you to everyone here in Summit Metals. We all call you stackers for a reason, because you collect gold, silver, and you become your own bank. And that's just the nomenclature used.
I would say we are really grateful, really thankful for you, our customer. We've had incredible growth. My guess is we're the fastest growing bullion dealer in the world right now. Things are going incredibly well. We're learning a lot. We're going to be very transparent, talk about some of those issues, and we seek your feedback, your comments, all those kind of things we really pay attention to. So please be very, very direct with us. We love learning. So thank you again very, very much.
We look at all your comments on YouTube. We look at all your reviews, all the emails. They come through. Eric and I review it, and we implement some of those changes because we understand what you want. Some examples that we have updated on our website is the fact that you can now pay with Zelle. You can use also BitPay on the side. Right now, physical checks are operational, and there's much more that we've added to our site in terms of product collections. People have been asking through other channels like Salvate Metals. Germanium Mint has been added in there, beautiful collection. And we've also been able to expand on other parts of the business, in which, Eric, if you could talk about a little bit of bullion reserve.
Yeah, so we had a lot of requests from some of our larger purchases to figure out a way to provide them kind of a bulk buying experience. So we've done that with Eagles and Buffaloes. We've done it with silver. We actually have some new additions coming on, 1,000-ounce bars in silver. We can even do a COMEX size bar in gold. You're talking like 400 ounces. We can do some pretty amazing things, and we are excited to bring those to our customer.
Exactly. And with regards to YouTube, we've also been working with you, and you've been doing a lot of interviews, and I'll let you talk about it. Even our own YouTube channel, you could see my face here or my face there. Switch. It's really good.
Yeah. So we're improving our game. We know our audio's improving, our video's improving, our editing's improving. We've learned too. We learned, for example, in our last video that people didn't like the music in the background. We'll fix that, of course. But we've also are really grateful. We've passed 10,000 subscribers, something that we didn't envision happening so quickly. We've been out less than 2 months. The growth has been phenomenal. Even today, it's surging. And so we've got a lot of really, really good insights from this. And so we're upping our game and really excited to include you in this process. We see ourselves as a community, all of us together included. So we really want you to be a participant in what we're doing. So please keep us in the loop, and let's grow this.
So thank you. And now to go about the video.
Well, let's do really quick. Let's do a little market update, because I know there's a lot of things going. I'm looking right now. Gold today. We're filming on a Wednesday.
At the time of this recording,
Wednesday. And at the time of this recording, gold's up over $100 an ounce. We're well over $3,300. There's just incredible growth. I think what's being proven is that gold is the tier one asset that people around the world are flocking to. They realize the markets are fairly inflated right now. There's a lot of pressure with tariffs and things like that. There's a burgeoning kind of currency war that's taking place. And then you've got in particular what's happening in China, where now insurance companies have been allowed to hold gold. You've got the central banks around the world that are buying gold. You've got consumers in these countries where their currencies are debasing very quickly. They're buying gold. So it's just become this universal, worldwide phenomena that people are seeing gold now as the place to go for a store of value and to protect their buying power into the future. I don't think that's going to change. Sure, the markets are going to go up and down. We're not here to give financial advice, but you can see what's happening in the market, and we invite you through common strategies we've talked about many times, like dollar cost averaging, to stay engaged, stay the course, know it's going to go up and down, but the fact that you're storing away and protecting yourself is the right thing to do in this market.
And the numbers are showing. The numbers are showing that.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else to add to that?
No, I think that's enough for right
All
now.
right, awesome. So then we're going to go into silver versus gold.
Okay.
What should I actually start buying if I have a couple bucks in my pocket, whatever that might mean to each of you?
Yeah.
The cost of entry, silver and gold. Right now, I'll play a little bit like the silver advocate on why I would want to buy silver first over gold.
Okay.
If I have maybe $1,000 and I'm getting into precious metal for the first time, I would buy silver because at current price, I could buy a tube of silver, generic or sovereign, or approximately a kilo of silver. And it's really nice to touch. It's really fun. I'm able to show off. I'm able to hold it. It's just an experience of in itself. And it does hold its value. Now, whether it goes up or down, it's for a long-term investment.
Yeah. Well, I think too with silver, you have the ability, you can buy a Britannia, you can buy a Canadian maple, you can buy an American silver eagle, you can buy an Australian kangaroo, you can get an entire variety of product. On the gold side, you're pretty much, depending on what your budget is, it pretty much starts at a gram, a little over $100. Your next price point's a little over 300 and kind of a tenth of an ounce, and then it goes up from there. So gold definitely costs more. The nice thing about gold is as you hold it, store it, things like that, it's not going to tarnish, it's not going to fade, it's going to maintain its value. And like silver, it's certainly valuable and a commodity that can be sold all over the world, but in particular, gold can be sold anywhere. It's very, very good in that sense. So let me jump in now. Let's talk about space and weight. So we know gold, for example, is a much more, dense metal, and the fact that you can hold a high value of it in a very small footprint, right? One coin of gold now, a gold buffalo or eagle's over $3,300. Tell me about silver.
For silver, it'll be more dense. Let's assume it's just $1,000 right now. If I'm starting off with something, I think silver is nice to have because it will make me feel like I own something relative to gold. Because if I'm holding a kilo silver bar,
right,
you feel that weight, and it's nice. It's
nice.
Fun to play with.
Yeah, but from the storage perspective, right, you've also got to consider in that kilo you're holding, 2.2 pounds of a product?
Yeah.
Where you've got more value in gold in a single coin that weighs an ounce.
And you could hide it easy.
And it's very easy to hide and things like that. Yes. So storage, I think we would agree, is harder with silver than it is with gold.
It is for that amount, correct.
Okay.
And what about the price volatility? I mentioned the aspects of silver where, you could buy it now, but it moves up and down very crazily at times.
Yes.
And for silver, when I'm going to buy it, if I were to buy silver, that would kind of make me a little bit hesitant, but at the same time, it makes me excited to know that I potentially could have a higher ROI because of that speculative nature.
Yeah, so I think the volatility of silver is often why people actually do buy it, where gold, being a kind of a more traditional store of value, is more consistently moving. Although in this market today, it's been moving very quickly as well. But we have to remember too, when you're talking about gold, for example, at 3,300 an ounce as we're filming today, $100 move percentage-wise, right? It's a little over 1%, but it's not, like it was when gold was much, much less expensive.
Correct.
So the percentage moves are still there. I think the nature of silver is such that where you might see a 1% move in gold on a particular day, you might see 1.5 or even 2 in silver. So that volatility works for you and it works against you. So that's kind of the nature of the beast. You kind of got to decide who you are, but the beauty is you can do both. You can buy gold, you can buy silver. I think we have advocated on this channel that as you get older, kind of like me, you're probably better off spending more of your assets into a more secure, kind of stable coin, which is gold, and then maybe have a little bit on the play side that's in silver to take advantage of that volatility, Where when you're younger,
Of
you have
course.
the advantage of volatility to work in your favor, where you can get a big pop should the market really accelerate.
Yeah, and being younger can carry all that weight too. So
Yeah,
you massive
that's
load.
right. So how do you feel about the long term versus the short term of the two metals?
So I do believe that both metals have great potential long term. I just see silver at a medium term having a higher ROI than gold. And again, you alluded to this about gold. Yes, it went up $100 today at the time of this recording, but percentage wise, it's completely different than when gold was at $2,000 and it goes up by 100. The percentages are different.
Right.
And silver, it's been in those low 30s, 20s for quite a while. There's a lot up to go.
Right. We've had a few silver squeezes, right? The Hunt brothers, where they jammed it up to $50 and then it came way down. So again, you've got the volatility of silver, but still from a long-term perspective, it's not like silver's going away.
No.
Right. I mean, people are going to continue to use the industrial nature of silver in their products, things like that. But gold, I think, has for 5,000 years and probably the next is going to remain the big time store of value. So I think in that respect, the long-term potential, I personally feel, of gold is stronger, but it's not that either of the precious metals by any stretch are going away. So they're both great. Again, that combo seems to be the opportune way to play it from a market standpoint.
Do you think that the central banks could, in theory, in the future, just convert silver into a tier 1 asset?
Yeah, you know, we get asked that sometimes relative to kind of the gold-silver ratio, you know, with, all of a sudden the gold-silver ratio is so high where, you know, it's over 100 ounces of silver to buy 1 ounce of gold. I don't think that the central banks look at those kinds of ratios when they make a decision of acquiring an asset for their central bank. At the same time, I have seen, I know in Russia, I read some things that they were actually starting to stockpile silver as part of their central, you know, kind of holding. So will other countries start to do that? I don't know. I think that's something to see. If it did, obviously that would be super positive, like crazy positive, because the amount of silver mined, right, does get consumed far more than what gold has occurred to it.
Correct.
All right, let's, your turn. So what do you got?
So the other aspect was actually liquidity. Silver, I feel at a smaller amount, again, $1,000, maybe much more liquid than gold, because, well, if you're penning $1,000 of gold versus $1,000 of silver, they might be both equally liquid. But I could grab 1 ounce of coin, go to a local coin shop or anything, trade it in for $40, $50, pays a random bill, whatever that bill might be, or a dinner, or sell 2 coins. Whereas a piece of gold, it starts at like 150, 300, and it's a large liquidation event.
Right. So silver is far more divisible.
Yes.
Number one. It also trades in typically smaller increments. So it's you know, if you go to your local coin shop or you call a bullion dealer like us, it's a very easy transaction for us to buy someone's silver. I think something else to consider when you're talking about liquidity, though, are spreads. Typically, the spreads for gold are tighter. And as a result, you know, whatever you buy for and whatever you sell for will be closer than maybe with silver. But, you know, they have their use cases. If you're one of the people, kind of the prepper community, the barter community, I think that's where silver absolutely wins, whether it's constitutional or whether it's, you know, a silver coin, which we even have some bars right now that are 1/100th of a silver bar, which is crazy to me. And then, you know, you can obviously get silver in kilograms. Even I've seen coins of 10 kilograms. So you can get big pieces of silver, but that's really not how most people collect. It's typically in a 1 ounce coin.
Yeah, that's why.
So how do you feel about, let's say, the trust factor when you're talking about a metal? Do you think, for example, that with central banks right now not buying silver, do you think that the love of silver, do you think that the reason people would buy silver will at some point disappear or diminish in the future?
Not necessarily on the basis on why is a dollar worth $1? Because there's trust in that dollar.
Okay.
And to me, I just think of silver as, I trust that this is a valuable resource.
Yeah.
And so do many other people. And not only just like from a value, but its utility in the industrial sector.
Yes.
I can see it being used more and more. Yes, it's used for solar panels and all that, but we're going to continue using it for manufacturing in the future.
Right.
I mean, we're in the technology age,
Yes.
and microprocessors. Right now with the tariffs, the wars, the machinery that's being built here in the United States will be consuming more of that silver to build these things.
Yes.
So the value just keeps going.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. I think silver is going to continue with its industrial demand. We've done videos where we've talked about all the kind of characteristics of silver, from conductivity to reflectivity to different things like that. Mm-hmm. And it clearly has a very, very strong industrial use case going forward. So if you have an economy, though, that might be turning and not doing quite as well, you might see less silver purchased. If people are buying less panels, the manufacturer need less silver, right? Gold, on the other hand, right now is being bought typically by, or principally by, central banks and things like that. It's often used in jewelry more so. But gold itself, too, doesn't have near the utility value, I would say, of silver. So in terms of its trust factor, it kind of depends on whether people see it as that real store of value going into the future. I do. I think the market is reflecting the fact that the market does as well right now. But like anything, that too can change.
Yeah.
So,
true.
there's a lot of things that can happen there.
What will happen 10 years from now? Only others will know. We spoke about the industrial demand just now. Mm-hmm. We can talk about more about the stacking strategy instead. You want to talk about the stacking strategy first?
Let's talk about it. So we kind of alluded to this earlier. So my view is that as we get older, we should definitely have more gold than we have silver. Typically, we're later in our careers. We have more assets to deploy into silver. We don't advocate taking even a big percentage of any of your assets and putting it into gold or silver, but we do think there is a meaningful amount, typically stated somewhere in that 2 to 7, up to maybe 10%. Again, we're not giving financial advice. Talk to your financial advisor, all the disclaimers. But in my view, the way I do it, I believe in having somewhere between 75 to 85% in gold for someone in their low 60s, and then maybe the rest in silver, which is kind of the fun part of the portfolio versus the secure part, that you're adding to and aggregated on a monthly basis on a systematic plan. That's how it works for me. Now, if I'm your age, I'm looking at it very differently. I might even inverse those. I might go very heavy in silver, looking for the volatility. And as I get the volatility, then maybe I'd roll some of that profit, if you will, into a more secure asset and just keep kind of adding on as I'm aging, as I'm getting more secure in my future, those kind of things. I kind of take that with me. I'd be happy to jump on that ride, if you know what I mean.
I do, and I agree with that, because if you're starting off with a lot of silver early on and then you transition to gold, one might think, oh, let me sell my silver to then transition to gold. But then you could also just think of it as a ratio at the end of the day, where you have, let's just assume 1,000 ounces of silver, and now you're transitioning to gold. Now start buying an ounce of gold in there, and the ratio just keeps decreasing.
Right. Exactly.
You're holding to it.
All right. So let's talk. I know this is a topic very near and dear to our audience, and that's premiums. So the first thing I kind of want to talk about is spot price. I would encourage all of you to go look at, when you're looking at buying these products, if you're comparing with other dealers, the first place I'd start is spot price, because there's a lot of people out there who will say they're quoting futures stock price. But the future stock price, from my perspective, is in fact the future. In other words, that's what it's projected to be worth at that point in the future. If I'm buying a product right now, I care about spot now, which is why when you go to a place like Summit Metals, you're going to see a spot price that's often, for example, with gold, $10, $20, even $30 less than what you'll see at other dealers out there. So when you see those deals where it says, spot plus $1.49, pay attention to spot, not just the $1.49. Because if I'm paying already another $10 or $15 and then it's another $1.50, that's not the same deal as what for example, we're offering at Summit Metals, right? So
Yeah.
those are very and very important things. So when you think of premiums, and I know you in particular are very sensitive about that, how do you see that shake out maybe between gold and silver?
Well, if it's between gold and silver, yes, there is a larger spread with silver in the buy sell, like American Silver Eagles. You could give it as an example, but it really depends on what you're buying in terms of that spread in silver. Let me give you an example. If you were to just buy a collectible piece of silver that's strictly just cool looking at everything, you're paying more of a premium for the craftsmanship in it,
Yes.
not necessarily for the stacking strategy.
Correct, yeah.
So that's the thing that you need to be conscientious about. The same could be said about gold in certain areas, but we're talking about silver right now.
Yeah,
It does have a larger spread in terms of premium,
yeah,
but it's much easier to access it today rather than tomorrow.
right, right. I would agree. It's kind of like in silver, to start to get the real compression of premium between buy and sell, you typically have to get into pretty big volume, right? Somewhere around 100 ounces or a kilogram of
1,000
silver.
ounces.
1,000 ounces, yeah, a big 75-pound bar. But if you're talking about gold, you can start to really feel that, certainly at an ounce, and of course anything above that, it really, really starts to compress, starts functioning much more like money, if you will.
Yes.
Okay, now, because of that, let's move on to the next topic because I think it kind of fits. So let's talk about barter and kind of crisis. Like, what can you do with a metal in a crisis? Would you rather be holding silver in those times? Do you feel like it'd be more actionable, usable, or would you rather be holding gold at that point?
It depends on the scenario. Am I going to be staying in my vicinity, like within a 50-mile radius?
Yeah.
Or do I have to just extract myself to a different state, community, country?
Yes.
In scenario one, where the world is not collapsing in terms of explosions and just some sort of economic collapse,
Right.
I believe silver is fine because I can move it around and trade with it. And it's very divisible.
Yes.
However, if I need to move to another state, fly my family out to another country, gold is the way to go.
It'd be very hard to pack a lot of silver in your suitcase.
Exactly. Have you ever tried to go to an airport with a monster box of silver?
Yeah, can you imagine?
It's very hard.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
they check your bags
Yeah.
at TSA. They're like, what is this? And they pull it out. I've done it. Like, they pull out, like, in front of everyone.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that we've learned. Like, if you're traveling with metals,
Yeah.
and the TSA grabs you, you should ask them, hey, can I get checked in a private room?
Yeah, and they
bring
will
a
do
second
that.
one,
Yeah.
so that no one knows that you're carrying these
Yeah,
things.
and to your point, you could have a gold bar, which is kind of the size of like a Pop-Tart, a little thicker. It's worth over $100,000. You could easily have 2 or 3 or 5 of those in, in your backpack or something like that.
Laptop
You can-
bag.
Yeah, you can carry a roll, which is 20 buffaloes or 20 1-ounce gold eagles. It's just a very small tube. That's worth, roughly $60-ish thousand right now. Those are very, very easy to transport and really good in those long-term things. In that kind of barter mode, crisis mode, there's just often not that many times, though, where you can trade that product in a way that's divisible enough to pay for something in need, right? Where like Constitutional, as an example,
Yes.
we sell many of Constitutional dimes, right? And those are highly divisible all the way to quarters, half dollars, and of course, what you start getting into the ounces of silver and things like that. I think from a barter perspective, silver is awesome. I think it actually works really, really well.
And I want to add to this comment about divisibility is the tubes that you just mentioned and the kilo bars, you could still carry the same amount of weight with fractional gold coins, like
Yes.
1/10 gold
Yes,
coins.
you could.
Like, it's not a bad idea to own these fractional coins. Yes, the premiums are higher, but they're much more divisible in a moment that you need to liquidate it.
And to be fair, do they have the same premium squeeze, if you will,
Spread.
of a spread, if you will, of say a kilogram bar? No, but they do. People recognize that you're paying a premium to buy it. Again, we've mentioned this earlier, but you also get a premium when you sell it. So it looks like it's a much, much bigger spread, but in reality, it's not that much bigger. So that's an important thing. Do you find yourself, do you have kind of an emotional attachment at all to one versus the other? Does that matter to you?
Gold or silver.
Yeah.
Like, I would say I do have more of an emotional attachment to certain silver bars
Oh,
because of the weight.
the first time I met Jose,
Yeah.
you flew out,
Yeah.
you stayed,
Oh,
you
I
came
know
to
where you're
visit me in
going with
my
this
house,
one.
and he pulled out a Kit Kat
Yeah.
20-ounce bar.
Yes.
And it's like a little baby club.
Yes.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
And I still remember that, the tactical nature of that. It was just incredible. Tactical.
And funny
yeah.
you bring that up because that is actually the exact story that I just mentioned about TSA going through my backpack.
Oh.
They pulled a Kit Kat bar in front of everyone. I'm like,
That's
oh,
funny,
come
yeah.
on, don't show that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am the other way. I have a real emotional attachment to gold. There's times when I'll just pull things out and just play with them, just look at them, just admire them, just feel that weight, feel the density of the metal, and know that not only is it something fun to behold, it's something that I can feel secure knowing that I have kind of for my future and for things like that going forward. So I do think these metals, and I have that with silver too, but not to the same degree, but I do think these metals, you know, not everyone buys it just as a savings vehicle, right? Like we carry, for example, Germania. We've got an upcoming video on that, which is awesome.
Yeah, keep on.
So stay out for that. But, you know, they produce some things that are truly works of art. You can spend a lot of money on art, something you put on the wall or something you put on your table. You can also spend it in some of their coins and some of their pieces that are just phenomenally beautiful. They're fun to experience, to enjoy, to share with your friends, and people are amazed. So metals have a lot of different touch points that make them fun, and not just fun, but meaningful to own. So that's one of the things I love about precious metals. They're awesome.
And I feel like right now to the community, stackers or just non-stackers or anyone who's new to it, is when you do buy silver or gold, do consider not just putting it all in the safe. Like, buy a silver bar or coin that you really like, or gold, put it on your desk, play around with it, do exactly what Eric is saying.
Yeah.
Because you owning something like this is a great achievement in of itself, because you're taking a step towards like building wealth, and you should be happy about that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's start winding down a little bit. So how about this last question? I got one for you.
Yeah, well,
What would, if you could start all over again,
yes.
you had everything at your disposal, gold, silver, you know, obviously none of us have an unlimited budget, but you've got, you know, your budget. How do you begin?
First, my mind goes towards where can I see it in person? As in, I've never touched gold or silver. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
But then the reality is, me knowing from my background in New Jersey, there's none of that. So it's online. What do I do?
Yeah.
And I would look for a place that first has a lot of reviews, two has a return policy, because what if I don't like it or I have some other things like that? And then from there, I would just.
But what are you buying? What are you actually doing? Yes.
What am I actually doing? Well, I'd probably be buying a little bit of silver, like 75% silver, 25% gold.
Okay.
Just because.
Would you buy a coin or would you buy a bar? Like, how would you start?
Well, if I had $1,000 again, I would probably buy one coin from each country.
Yeah.
To just see, like.
I did just that.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
I would buy maybe a round, just to see like what's the difference between a sovereign coin and a round. Then I'd buy a bar, just to be like, I own a bar.
Yeah.
And then I would also buy a piece of gold within that budget to just.
Would it matter to you that if you bought a bar that it was in assay or not? Just so we're clear, that's a card where the bar is typically sealed. When you turn it over,
Yes.
it tells you exactly the purity and all the different things about the bar. That's what in assay means.
So this one is really hard to say if I were to do it again, knowing what I know. When I first started, assay card was so important, because I'm like, oh man, I'm spending a lot of money on this. I don't know whether it's real. But as I got educated in understanding how the market works, like it could be faked. It's about buying from a reputable person or dealer.
Yeah.
I just buy raw without the assay
You
card.
like raw.
Yeah, I like raw because I like touching it, flipping it. Sometimes it drops, it dings, but you know what? I had fun flipping it.
Yeah. I would, one of the things we just talked about Germania, one of the things I like about their bars is you kind of get the best of both worlds, because when you turn the bar over, it's got a card in it that kind of gives you the, you know, the assay certificate kind of thing, what it is. But they also seal it in kind of a plastic. It's very, very thin. So you can kind of have fun with it. You can touch it. You can, you know, play with it. You can do all those things. You can know it's 100% real. You can use some of our equipment, for example, and validate the metal, all those kind of things. You kind of get the best of both worlds for those products. But if just for me, if I'm going to answer that question, what would I do differently? I would do what you said. I would certainly buy kind of a sampling of different products. And then I personally, if I had to do it all over again, I'd probably zero in. I'd find something that I really liked. In my case, like I love gold 1 ounce buffaloes, right? And I would start stacking that metal. And as I'm doing that, I'm going to play on the fringe with some of the other stuff that I just really like, you know? So that would be, for example, I own some Germania products.
Yes.
I would buy some of their products. I'm not looking to like stack tons of Germania product, but I like looking and experiencing them and sharing them with my friends and family and things like that. But I would probably get pretty focused on stacking something till I get to a point where I'm comfortable, and then I'd maybe move to the next product after the sample that I really liked and start, if you will, stacking that. That's maybe how I would do it a little differently than a little bit of the hodgepodge, which I've actually done in my real life, you know.
And it's good that you bring up the variety, adding a little bit of variety to the stack, because it does get boring if you just buy the same coin or bar every month.
Yeah.
And it just, there's no more feeling to it.
Yeah, I mean, there's not that many things you can do in your life that are actually like really meaningful, like financially meaningful and fun. You know, fun to experience and to play with, things like that. We all like that. That's awesome, and that's you know, they're great talking points. They're great party starters. They're great all those kind of things. They're just awesome. So I love precious metals. So
That's a question to the viewers right now. What do you do with your stack beyond putting it underground? Do you play with your metals? And if so, what do you do with them?
yeah, I think a lot of questions like that. Do you use professional vaults where you get insurance and things like that? Do you keep some at home and then some in a professional storage facility? Do you stack only for money? Do you stack for pleasure? Do you stack for both? We'd love to hear your comments and thoughts on that. So, yeah.
Cooper, can you do a poll and just put this so people can vote on what they do? Yeah, a poll can be done.
That. Yeah,
so
let's do it. I'd love to say thank you to everyone again. Like we said at the beginning, we're really deeply appreciative of the time you've invested with us. We hope that you're finding we're trying to be incredibly authentic in everything we do, completely transparent. We want you to be part of our family. We want you to grow with us, to learn with us, to experience these amazing products with us as we build into the future.
Well, as we always say, like and subscribe, leave a comment down below, and happy stacking, everyone.
Happy stacking.